G'day guys, welcome back to No Man's Sky. Well, here she is. I finally got the Starborn Runner from completing the Omega expedition. And you know what that means? It's time for a combat test. So in this video I'll go through the upgrades and stats and take her for a spin and check out how she flies. Then it's time to test her in combat with the Sentinels and hopefully don't get my shiny new ship destroyed. As always, thanks for watching and please consider a like and maybe even a subscribe if you enjoy the vid. So let's get into it. So first, let's have a look at the upgrades and stats. As you can see, I fully upgraded the ship and this time I've just used the standard S-Class upgrades. So I figured that a lot of people don't have the time or inclination to grind out getting the best X-Class upgrades, and using my best X-Class upgrades for this test probably wasn't a fair idea of what the ship is like in combat for the average player. So S-Class upgrades it is. I'm also using a different save, so I don't have any squadron pilots helping me out. Anyway, with only one weapon fitted, the base damage potential isn't too bad at 343. Shields came in at 387 and maneuverability at 1468, which are both pretty good. The Starborn Runner has what I would call a 2+1+1 supercharged slot arrangement, with 2 supercharged slots adjacent to each other and the other 2 on their own. With only 2 supercharged slots for weapons, it's never going to be the most powerful ship in your fleet, but it should be able to handle most encounters. I have put a shield upgrade and a pulse engine upgrade in the other 2 supercharged slots. Now this time around I'm going to use the infra knife instead of the photon cannon, as it's a popular choice for starship combat and it's also one of my favourites. With S-Class upgrades and only 2 supercharged slots, the DPS is coming in at 32k for the infra knife and nearly 22k for shielded targets. And just for any newer players, this number is the actual damage you're putting out, not the damage potential number that you see on the right. Now if we go into the difficulty settings, you can see my enemy strength is set to challenging. But if we set the enemy strength to weak, apply the changes, and go back to our infra knife, you'll see the damage is now up from 32k to almost 124,000 and 82,000 against shielded targets. So again, for the newer players, changing the enemy's strength doesn't actually make the enemy weaker, it just makes your weapon stronger. But let's be honest, space combat in this game isn't particularly difficult, especially with the lock-on feature. So let's just go back and turn the enemy strength back up to challenging, and let's also set the frequency of encounters to hostile to encourage some action. For the people who play in VR or just prefer the cockpit view, the Starborn Runner is pretty good. You have a fairly decent scope of vision, so it's pretty VR friendly. Now with just thrusters, we're getting around 152 U's per second. I assume the U is for units, but who knows. With the boost button, we're getting up to 379, 380 U, which is pretty decent for our upgrades. Even though technically it's not a fighter, for the most part it handles pretty much like one. Turning circle under full boost is good, and the roll rate is about average for the game. All in all, the Starborn Runner flies pretty well, and it's fun to fly close to the ground as it's responsive enough. But let's get on with some combat. So changing the frequency of space battles to hostile just seemed to keep attracting pirates and not the Sentinel battle that I was after. Even though I do have black market goods in the cargo, I just couldn't get the Sentinels to trigger. At any rate, this is the highest ranking pirate battle I found. And well, not much of a challenge. I ended up just landing on a planet and starting a fight with the Sentinels, and then just flew up to space for the battle. As always, I'll cut down some of the footage between phases to save some time on the video. Now phase 1 was just about what you'd expect. But then you can see here, as I was coming out of the clouds, the phase dropped from 2 back to 1 after the Sentinel ship had spawned. Maybe that was because I took the fight up into space, but I don't know. I don't recall ever having seen that before with the Sentinel battles, and it could be just a bug. But no worries, phase 2 only had 1 ship, so easy enough to do again. Now in phase 3 I jumped back into cockpit view just to mix it up a bit and also show the view for VR players. Only 2 interceptors this time and still no worries. Phase 4 we got 3 Sentinels and they kindly stayed in formation for me. And it took less than 30 seconds to send them back to meet the Atlas. So at the start of phase 5 here, the target lock kept focusing on the Sentinel Freighter, so I went to manual for a bit to get a lock and then destroyed the first ship. Flew a little away from the freighter to deal with the rest of the Sentinel ships first. As for the newer players, this is a good tactic to stay out of the weapons range of the freighter, at least until you've dealt with most of the interceptors. Just don't fly so far away that you lose sight of where the Sentinel Freighter is. Two down. 3 down. And 4 down. That's all there was for the moment, so time to take out the Sentinel cannons. So I had to recharge shields for the first time in the battle so I could complete my strafing run. Missed a couple up front. And then I did the cannons on the other side of the freighter. From here, the freighter is pretty much defenseless. Ended up getting another couple of Sentinel ships come in, so I went after those before destroying the freighter, Had to recharge my shields again as I was a bit careless with the freighter's cannons. After dealing with those two, I headed back to the freighter and a couple more Sentinel ships spawned in, but I had nearly full shields and the freighter didn't have much health left, so I just sat there and piled on the damage. So in summary, I'm a fan of the Starborn Runner. I personally love the look of it and it does the job that I require of it. My only complaint would be the supercharged slot arrangement, but as you've seen, it can handle a Sentinel battle without much of a worry. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed the vid, guys, and don't forget to subscribe for more No Man's Sky content. Cheers guys, hope you have a good one.